How's it going, everyone? Corbin here with Home Gyms Canada, and today is an awesome day because I'm introducing a new series to our page called the Home Gym Guide. In this series, we're going to talk a little bit about tips, tricks, home gym hacks, and essential pieces of equipment that you should consider for your home gym. So just recently, I reviewed the Amstaff Competition Flat Bench, and one of my main concerns with that bench was actually how slippery the pad was. This forced me to come up with a solution. So in this video, I'm going to share my solution that I've been using for the past year and a half, and it's worked great. So without further ado, let's get into it. As I mentioned earlier, the Amstaff Competition Flat Bench was almost unusable because of how slippery the vinyl was. It made setting your shoulders when bench pressing very difficult and inconsistent. That being said, I didn't want to get rid of the bench, so I decided to come up with a solution to fix my problem. I've seen many people, including myself, try wrapping resistance bands around the bench in hopes that it would provide a more grippy surface to connect to. I've actually seen great results in doing so. However, I didn't want to ruin my resistance bands, and I was looking for a more permanent solution. I've also seen people try and lift on top of a yoga mat to, again, try and provide a more grippy surface to connect to. For me, this was too bulky, it looked very weird, and again, I was trying to find a more permanent solution. So I took my problem to Amazon to find a solution, and I actually scrolled upon a non-slip toolbox liner. Now what this item is meant to do is absorb impact and protect tools from being scratched and or damaged when inside the toolbox. Now what I came to realize was this material was very similar to a yoga mat. It's going to provide plenty of grip, and it's actually thinner than a yoga mat, which makes it perfect for our application. I went ahead and ordered this toolbox liner on March 2nd of 2020, and if I can remember correctly, I applied it immediately after it arrived at my house. This has been my solution for the past year and a half, and it has worked excellently. So in this video, I'm going to demonstrate how I applied this toolbox liner to make my bench a more effective surface to lift on. Now, I'm by no means an expert in this field. In fact, there are probably many of you watching right now that can do a lot better than I can. That being said, the result was what I expected, and it functions perfectly, which is what I was after. Now is an excellent time to talk about the equipment that I use for this project. First, we obviously have the rubber liner that I got on Amazon. The link to the exact one I got will be down below. We used a pair of scissors, a razor blade, a staple gun, and some 1/4-inch staples, and that is all we used for this project. Now to start this project, I simply unrolled the toolbox liner on top of the bench and cut it to length. The length is going to be different for everyone, and it's going to be dependent on the length of your bench. The one thing I will say is make sure you leave enough on each end. You can always cut more off, but you can't add any material back on. From here, I simply stapled each end of the rubber liner to the pad, making sure that the rubber liner is directly centered on each side. The next thing I did was cut off all the excess material that was no longer needed before moving to the corners. Now there are many ways that you can fold the corners. I don't think any way is the best way. I think it all comes down to personal preference. However, I knew I wanted to get rid of all the unused material to make it look as clean and as sharp as possible. Here's how I folded the corners. After doing all 4 corners, I moved on to the 2 remaining sides. From here, I simply started driving staples into the base of the bench. Now the one thing I will say is make sure that you're stapling into the actual wood that supports the foam and vinyl. You will instantly know when you missed the wood and drove a staple through into the foam. Also, when you're stapling, you want to make sure that you're pulling the liner tightly across the pad. This is going to avoid any play between the 2 surfaces when it's done. After this step, the rubber liner should be secured to your pad, and all you have left to do is test it out. If I were to do this project again, the one thing that I would do differently is I would look for a bigger rubber liner so that I could drive staples into the bottom of my bench opposed to the sides. Aesthetically, I think this is going to look a lot better, and it's actually going to make for an easier time when applying it. The rubber liner that I currently have is 16 inches in width. In doing this project again, I would look for something around 18 to 20 inches. If you guys have any ideas or suggestions on how to make this more effective or aesthetically pleasing, go ahead and leave that down below. My name was Corbin with Home Gyms Canada. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys around here sometime soon.